There should be a door around here.
God fucking damn it! Hi, I'm Byzaster, and welcome to my short-ish, spoiler-free, and upload schedule interrupting review of Scott Pilgrim Takes Off. Let me just start out by saying that I'm a pretty big Scott Pilgrim fan. I own the complete graphic novel series, and I've read it a bunch of times, I've watched the movie a couple times, and I've played the game a few times. So obviously, when an anime adaptation of the series was announced, I was ecstatic, and my excitement only grew when I found out that BRYAN wrong angle, and there we go. The creator of the original series had creative control over it, the entire movie cast would be reprising their roles with voice acting, and animation would be handled by Shin and SARU, the incredible team behind incredible shows like Isaacin. The first time I read Scott Pilgrim, I remember thinking, wow, this could be made into a really cool anime. And obviously, I'm not the only person who had that thought. As much as I love the Scott Pilgrim movie, I think it suffers a tiny bit from being live action and skipping over some aspects of the original series, and the trailers for the anime series made it look really promising, which is why it was so weird to watch it when it came out. Let me be clear, I don't mean this in a bad way, but without any spoilers, let me just say that when you go into Scott Pilgrim Takes Off, don't expect an adaptation of the graphic novel series because that's not what this is. It's more of a what-if, alternate story type anime. Personally, I loved this, but I've noticed that a lot of people don't, and I don't exactly blame them. See, like I said, it's not a good idea to go into the show expecting a normal adaptation, but the problem was that that was kinda what it was marketed as. See, up until the very end of the first episode, the series plays out like a normal book-to-show type adaptation, well, with some minor changes, but still. And for some reason, Netflix decided to only use clips from the first episode to make the show look like a direct adaptation. The only indication that the anime would be differing from the novels was a story Brian Lee O'Malley posted on Instagram. So yeah, this show didn't have the greatest marketing. But despite the fact that I went into the show expecting a normal enough adaptation with some minor changes, I still enjoyed it. This review will be split into a few sections. First, I'll talk about the story, without any spoilers, of course. Second, I'll talk about the characters. Third, I'll talk about the art. Fourth, I'll talk about the music and voice acting. And finally, I'll discuss the other aspects of the series that I either enjoyed or didn't enjoy and give the series a final review score out of 10. First of all, the story. It's a little hard to explain without spoiling anything, but in basic terms, it's sort of a what-if story where Scott loses the first fight and goes missing. Hence the series name, Scott Pilgrim Takes Off. Pretty clever, right? Oh. Sorry, I guess. Like I said, I can understand why some people were annoyed by this change, and I do have some semi-mixed feelings about it myself. First of all, I feel like they set up slightly too much stuff to adapt in just 8 episodes. I won't spoil anything, but there's shit like time travel that gets introduced later on and not totally fleshed out. And as much as I loved the alternate story route they went with this anime, I do kinda wish we got to see the actual plot animated. Yeah, the live-action movie was cool, but it would have been awesome to see it reach its full potential, or reach its threshold in animated form. But on the other hand, it was also really cool to be thrown in for a completely unexpected loop and see a totally new, never-seen-before side of the story. Also, the fights were fucking sick. The other sorta problem I had with the story was that for a show about Scott Pilgrim, we didn't really see much of him. He's still very much a part of the plot, but we pretty much only see him in under half of the episodes. But at the same time, this also gave the other characters, most notably the evil exes, a lot more screen time and made them more than just characters put in the series for Scott to beat up. Speaking of which, let's talk about the characters now. It's honestly pretty accurate to say that the characters and relationships between said characters are the most important part of Scott Pilgrim, so I think it's awesome that the anime stayed true to the original series in this department. Scott is awkward and messy, Kim is deadpan and sarcastic, and Wallace is the best character. It was awesome watching the show and seeing how these characters handled completely new situations in such fitting, hilarious, and engaging ways. It also does a pretty good job of showing that Scott and Ramona's relationship is not perfect, and that these characters are flawed and intended to be portrayed that way. I swear to God, if I see another person say that this series is bad because of the toxic relationship between Scott and Ramona, I will fucking snap. Moving on, the animation in this series is just Oh my god, I'm gonna sound like a loser here, but I swear that when it was announced that Science SARU would be animating this anime, I almost cried out of pure joy. My top picks for studio choices were Trigger and Science SARU. I'm not even joking, so I was so glad that one of my top picks got chosen. This meant that seeing my favorite scenes animated was just an insane fucking experience. It was just beautiful, and I can say with confidence that yeah, Science SARU was a perfect choice to bring this weird-ass series to life. Though I'd be lying if I said I didn't get a little bit salty thinking about how they could have animated the full original plot. The music featured in the series was also awesome. No, we didn't get Garbage Truck, Threshold, and other awesome songs from the movie, which, yeah, was kinda sad, but we did get all new music from Anna Monoguchi, who composed the music for the game. The new tracks were fantastic, and in addition to them, there were also some pre-existing songs featured throughout the series. My personal favorites were Liam Lynch's United States of Whatever and Police Truck by Dead Kennedys. It was really awesome hearing songs I already loved in a series that I already loved. The voice acting is also fantastic. To get the full experience, you have to watch the English version because, like I said, it features all of the original movie actors. The reprisal of these actors in the anime is so great, especially since Michael Cera, Kieran Culkin, and others are perfect choices for Scott, Wallace, and more. Emphasis on Kieran Culkin, by the way, because I fucking love him. And now that we've covered all of the formulaic categories, let's move on to the other stuff. First of all, the weirdness of the series is perfectly captured in the anime. Scott Pilgrim just wouldn't be the same without its trippiness and subspace highways, and luckily, the team behind the adaptation knew this. Also, what else? Oh yeah, this anime is gay as hell. Just a quick heads up, I will be talking about some minor romance subplots here, which I don't necessarily consider spoilers, but if you do, then feel free to skip to the timestamp displayed on screen, and I'll give you a few seconds to do so. So, remember Todd, the vegan guy? Yeah, he and Wallace fuck multiple times in one episode, and it's fucking awesome. I really wish I'd recorded my reaction to this series because their entire affair subplot had me going completely insane. It was absolutely hilarious seeing Todd go from being 100% committed to Envy to realizing that he was gay for Wallace, and hey, can anyone blame him? In addition to this, Roxy really gets her time to shine in this adaptation. And by time to shine, I mean that she gets closure with Ramona and, makes out with Kim. And then after realizing that there aren't really sparks between them, she asks for her hot coworker. Her words, not mine, but I agree. Anyways, I doubt we'll get a season 2 because, yeah, the series kinda concluded with one season, but if we do, we better get a Holly and Roxy subplot. Brian Lee O'Malley, if you're watching, take notes. Scott Pilgrim has always had surprisingly awesome gay rep for a series written by a straight man in the early 2000s. Yeah, some of the lesbian rep early on in the series definitely felt like it was written for dudes to go crazy over, and it hasn't aged amazingly. And now that I think about it, the Kim and Roxy kiss scene in this anime was kinda like that. But aside from that, it had some super good representation, and I was really glad to see it continued with this adaptation. But I am still waiting for Stefan and Joseph's romance to be remembered. Like, come on, so many fans don't even know that they're gay. Before I move on to some of my problems with the anime though, let me just say first that it does a good job of making it perfectly clear that Scott dating a 17-year-old is not supposed to be a good thing, because apparently some people can't understand that the main point of that arc with Knives was to show that Scott is kind of a shitty person and his actions have negative consequences on others. No, RG33, a 24-year-old dating a 17-year-old high school girl did not sound good in 2010. Anyways, the cons of this anime. I already touched on most of the ones I wanted to talk about in this video, but I'll list a few more here before moving on to my final thoughts and score for the series. First of all, I personally think that Scott's ugly past isn't really touched on enough here, aside from the whole Knives thing, obviously, and it was kinda disappointing. Yes, characters like Kim and Envy were still great in the anime, but their previous interactions with Scott lead to key aspects of their character traits that aren't really covered here. Second of all, I'll admit that some of the minor changes, like the line about Amazon.ca being removed because it was a Netflix series, which they couldn't really control, but also the line about Pac-Man being replaced with Sonic, did hurt my soul a tiny bit. They may not seem like they're too big of a deal, and they really aren't, but to me, most of the callbacks to moments in the graphic novel series and movie were cool, but a few of them, in my opinion, like the bread makes you fat line, felt sort of like Marvel-esque fan service that was just put there for fans to go, oh my god, that's the thing, they said the thing. I mean, like I said, it's sort of a minor gripe, but yeah, that was my point 3. And my fourth and final point before I move on, no Lisa. Like Joseph, she wasn't in the movie and she still isn't in the anime. Give this poor girl the love she deserves. But yeah, that's pretty much all I had to say about Scott Pilgrim Takes Off. I personally really enjoyed it. Overall, I'd give it a solid 8 out of 10, would recommend. Also, before you go, please consider liking and sharing this video and subscribing to my channel. It seriously helps me out so much and I'd be really grateful. Plus, you'd get to see my future uploads. I'll probably talk about Scott Pilgrim again sometime, for example. So yeah, hope to see you in the next one, but until then, bye.